What is the mission? Make disciples. Go, as you're going, make disciples. We'll be in Matthew chapter 28, verse 18. Good job, everybody, on reciting that. And isn't it, it's pretty cool to sit down and then to look back and to celebrate. To look back and say, man, God did some pretty cool stuff. Sometimes when we look back, it's through the, oh, that time wasn't very good, but I saw God working. I'm sure when you left for boot camp, it was like, oh, this is going to be so much fun. But now that you're done, you can look back and see some cool stuff. How many of us in the last year have said, man, that was a rough year, there were some rough points in there, but man, as you look back now, you can see where God had did some pretty cool things. When we get to Matthew 28, we're at the end of the book. And Jesus came and said to them, so who's them? Who's there? Who's he talking to? This is interactive. The disciples. How long had he spent with them to get to this point? 3.5 years. So he'd spent quite a bit of time with them. And he says, hey, fellas, I'm Jesus, and I'm going to say to you. And Jesus came and said to them, the 12 disciples, or the 11 at this time, all authority in heaven and earth has been given to me. We just got done going through the Christmas series, and Jesus is the great expectation of the present King. He's risen to the right hand of the Father, the boss over everything, dominions of heaven and earth. Not only is he the boss of whoever's going to be our next 15 presidents, over the UN, but all over the angelic host and all over the demonic host. He's king, ruler, boss. And Jesus comes and says to them, at this point he's resurrected from the dead, so it's a kind of a big deal, isn't it? He's come back from the dead. All authority in heaven and earth has been given to me, guys. I know I'm back from the dead. I've just conquered sin and death. What's hard this morning is to I want to give you the whole backdrop of Matthew. Because he comes to the disciples. And this morning I have to ask, are you a disciple of Jesus? What does that mean? Did you go to the spiritual Coke machine, drop 25 cents in the machine and said, I got me some Jesus, I got me some forgiveness of sins, and I'm a disciple? We read the scripture this morning. What did Jesus say the cost was? Hey, if you want to follow me, what's it going to cost you? Everything. How much did it cost the disciples to get to this point in the story in Matthew 28? Everything. They spent 3.5 years, and it wasn't on a Caribbean cruise ship. What did they see happen? Just name off some things that the disciples saw Jesus do. Heal the sick. Raise the dead. Huh? Give sight to the blind. Walk on water. Okay, when did Jesus do these things? Did he set up hey, here's the calendar, guys. Next Monday at 2 p.m., I'm going to raise some dead. So you all need to be there. No? Hey, fellas, let's take a stroll. Let's take a walk. Let's go to the top of the mountain. I'm going to pray for a little bit. Man, here comes a whole bunch of people. Hey, you guys got a lunchbox? Yeah, what do you got in your lunchbox? Well, I got a quick carry out from Publix. Well, good. Feed 10,000. Feed 5,000. What? You're nuts. See the need, boys. Meet the need. Let me teach you how to love them. When did Jesus do this? Did he set an appointment with them and say, sign up for discipleship class and go there and I'll meet with you? No, where are they at? Where are they with him? How are they with him? How would you describe it? They live with him. He's walking with them. In developing relationships is where he made his, through relationships is how he made his disciples. At the Matthew 28, he says, I'm going to give you guys a command, and I'm going to tell you to do what I just got done doing. It took 3.5 years. All authority has been given to me, Jesus says. In Revelation, we know that John turns around. We like to joke about John. John writes, I call him Goofy Uncle John. Okay, because he writes John, and he gets the revelation, and he's the only guy that has this great revelation and ends up worshiping the wrong angel, and the angel's like, don't worship me, you don't get it yet? But John is on Isle Patmos and has this vision, and here's this voice behind him. And so John turns around and sees him, and is like, whoo, that is God. To him who gives us all the forgiveness of our sins, to him whose eyes are now ablaze with fire, whose feet are like bronze, says, hey, go and make disciples. In your going. That's why I asked you, when did Jesus make his disciples? It wasn't a program. It wasn't Wednesdays at 7 p.m. It wasn't Sunday at 10 a.m. When did he go? How did he do it? In his going, in his doing, in his life. He did what he's asking them to do, to make disciples. So the word is, in your going, go therefore, while you're doing life, make disciples. And a disciple is one who has said, I will follow Jesus. And like Pastor Michael taught this morning, the last time you will make an individual choice in the local church is whether or not you accept Jesus. If you haven't accepted Jesus Christ, your personal Savior this morning, I'm going to ask you if you've done that. Do you recognize your need? Hey, I'm a sinner, and I got to take care of this. Do I believe and I want to follow Jesus? And then when do I follow, what does then that look like? Who do I join up with to do this? Because look back at how Jesus discipled. There's 12 of them. They 12 together. Can you imagine Jesus walking down 314? There's 13 of them. What are they doing? Oh, he's discipling. Ladies, you go to Walmart. You go there by yourself or you take somebody with you. What is she doing? Oh, she's discipling. She's got 13 people with her. That is the goofiest thing I've ever seen. Yeah, she's discipling. Fellas, you're going to go and watch the game. Why does he invite 13 people over to watch the game? Oh, he's discipling. As you're going through life, do it in relationships with other people to make disciples. Because following Jesus is about relationships. We like to say, would you like to have a relationship with God? We don't do religion, we do relationships. But we like to get ourselves a little bit of Jesus, then go in isolation and say, but I'm doing pretty good all by myself. Jesus would never agree to that. He never made disciples all by himself. Did he spend time by himself? Yes, he did. But in front of whom did he do all these miracles? Well, a bunch of people. So if you take away all the things we remember about Jesus, and we list all of the miracles, you got a whole bunch of other time of watching a football game on a Friday night, sitting in the stands with other women who were watching their kids, picking up kids from the daycare, going to Walmart, living together, sharing life together. Does that make sense? And so, as a Grace Church of Ocala, we say these verses every single Sunday. And it's incredibly important because we can become people who like to do church together just in our little box that looks like a Mediterranean resort between two housing collections. But we say it when? When do we say these verses? At the end of service. That is not accidental. Because then is when you go and be the church. There is time for us to be the church together. This is like halftime. Unless you're Ohio State last night. I don't know what was said there. Whew. Because here's where we get together and do life together. Relationships outside of here. And getting to know one another and doing life together. Do you imagine what it was like? Did Jesus have a zealot, a tax collector, and two hot-headed brothers? They called him the Sons of Thunder. And lived together. Guys, you know what it's like to live together. When you moved into the ranch, how long did it take you to not get along with somebody? Instant. But if you guys just had to get together, what's your favorite thing to do at the ranch, John? Play football. So if you only had to show up at the ranch at Wednesdays at 7 and play football, then you got to go back to wherever your super world was. Could you enjoy the ranch? Yeah. But make you live in a house with a bunch of other people, it takes that long to not get along. We like to show up on Sunday and pretend like we're doing really good for an hour. Put you inside the same relationships, interacting with one another, and show the world that we love each other because we can forgive and seek reconciliation. Jesus came and said to them, all authority has been given to me. As you're going about life, go and make disciples. And be with you to the end of the age. Who's with us? Is it because we're really good at cheerleading each other on, which we should be doing? Is it really good because I can grow a beard and Pastor Ryan's still trying? Do we get to go on this mission because we're gung-ho for 15 minutes come Monday morning? Camille, you have battle buddies. I've seen you post that all over Facebook. If you had a horrible battle buddy, what would life be like? Did you know anybody in the Army that got a horrible battle buddy? Yeah. If you had a battle buddy that was the best in the MOS that's ever been in the Army, and they came to you and said, Camille, I want to be your battle buddy, what would you say? The best it's ever been in the history of the Army. Jesus is that battle buddy. I want to go to battle with you. I'm the best it's ever been. I'm the boss of all bosses. I rose from the dead to the right hand of God. I have power and dominion over everything that exists on earth. Now go and make disciples, and lo, I'll be with you. How long? How long is that? So you've been given a mission, which is what? What is the command in these verses? No. What is the mission? Make disciples. Go, as you're going, make disciples. In the making of disciples, lo, I'm going to be with you always. Until when? The end of the age. Now, there's some of us are more into the end of our age than some of the others, like you guys at the ranch. But to doing it with others, Jesus is going to be there with us until the end of the age comes, which is Revelation. Which is until you, all the way through whatever life he's called you to do, whether it's living at the ranch, working at the ranch, whether it's being retired, or whether it's working with the tutoring students, or whether it's in the Army. What are you to do? What is your main mission in life while you're there? Make disciples. And the boss, the best battle buddy of the whole wide world is there. So how are we going to do this? That's a whole bunch of theory. Sounded good. Wow, you actually preached Matthew 28, 18 through 20. Go and make a disciple. Every one of us. Take your connection card that's in the chair in front of you. Or pick up one. And who is it going to be? Who is that one person that you know in your life and as you do relationships with who may not yet follow Jesus? Everybody make one this year. What does it take to make a disciple? A lot of TIME. A lot of relationships. Because some of them don't return much on the dividends. You guys ever make friends with people that just don't pan out? They end up not wanting to do much? And it's like, whoa, God, that was a lot of wasted time. I'm trying to make a disciple, and I was only in their life for a moment. Or the things didn't work out. Now I don't hardly ever see them again. But God has a mission for us to say, go and make disciples. There will be slow balls down the middle. There will be people in your life that God will bring around on a repetitive basis that says, who is your disciple? Because where do you live? Everybody have an address? The only time I didn't have an address when I worked in Alaska. But I know everybody in here probably has an address. You got neighbors. You got people you interact with. You guys got like a jillion right around you. So whatever your address, right there is your people. How many of us go into our world on a regular basis, on a regular time during the week? Whether we go to work, Robbie, what's the name of your place where you go? You go there every day. You got to clock in there every day. And how many guys do you know by name that's there? Huh? 20. So God said, hey, Robbie, I got a job for you. Why don't you move to Florida? You're like, ooh, that's crazy. And so you did the whole crazy thing and moved to Florida. So when he says, go and make disciples to all nations, start right there at that place. You got 20 people you know there. Ryan, you got a whole bunch of people you know where you work. Write them down. Then where we work and where we go, think about who is it God's brought along into our lives and who will be that one person. Take your connection card and write down some of those names so that we can pray for you as to who that is. And that way, you know what the hard thing about it is? Because on Sunday morning we can say, I'll pray for my battle buddy. And you can write that down on your connection card. What's your battle buddy's name, Camille? Huh? Smith Courtney. Is that backwards? Oh. Courtney, okay. So Courtney. Smith Courtney. You write down Smith Courtney. And you turn it in. So Pastor Michael and I, then Ryan, pray for you. You're like, oh, cool. The hard part is the next time we see you, how was Smith Courtney? Have you had any spiritual conversation with Smith Courtney? What? That's accountability. That's, wow, okay, so God's asked me to do this. Here's a local group of people that's going to actually like ask if I'm doing the mission. Were you risky enough this morning to put it on the connection card of who that will be? And I understand if you don't want to. But that'll give us an idea of who you are reaching and to motivate us to do that. So the goal for 2017 is go and make a disciple. Everyone to have an opportunity to baptize someone this year. That would be awesome. Meet somebody who doesn't know Jesus. Teach them what it means to follow Jesus and to baptize. Because one of the cool things we like to do is the people who have the relationship with them get to do the baptizing. You don't have to be a pastor to baptize. Everybody make one disciple to have an opportunity to baptize somebody, and everybody relationally teach that one disciple. Jesus spent 3.5 years with his disciples, spending time with them. So not only do you find them, pray about them, find them, teach them about Jesus, but then relationally develop time with them. Hip to hip, time to time with that person. How are we going to do it? Pray. Maybe it's a big challenge to us this morning to say, oh, that means I got to get outside my house. I got to get out of my comfort zone at work. That means I have to develop relational equity in my community. That's hard. It's a whole lot easier to stay in our comfort zone. Pray about it, develop relational equity in your community and with those people. And finally, use your spiritual gift here with the local body to serve the local body. Most of the time I've spent talking about what we're going to do out there. And I think that's what Jesus wants us to do. He started there, making disciples by teaching, baptizing, and obeying all that he commanded. But doing that together as a community called Grace Church of Ocala, where you can use your gifts for one another, with one another, and the goofy, hard stuff of relationships. Let's pray. What is the mission? Make disciples. Go, as you're going, make disciples.